And we are live. I'm here with Brian from Directus. So thank you very much for joining me today.
Andreas, happy to be here, my man. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So we are currently streaming both to our YouTube channel as well as X and LinkedIn. And I
I
think we're
believe
streaming to
so.
all of those things on your end as well. So we should have a big audience of a lot of people who either have used Toddle a lot or Directus a lot, or maybe even both.
And they're all here to see our beautiful faces.
Exactly. That's what they're here for. And so what are we gonna do today, Brian? Do you wanna take us through what it is we're gonna be building today?
Yes. So this project is a Rabbitar directory. And I say Rabbitar on purpose. It's not Avatar. Back in the summer, we had a launch week event, like a week long. Here's all the features we're rolling out at Directus. We needed an awesome registration site. We built this front end that basically allowed you to pass some traits. Like, here's what I want my Rabbitar to look like. It was space themed. We would generate a AI Rabbitar for you. It would show in your page and show up on an OG image. But through that, we generated, I don't know, it was close to 1,000 of these freaking AI Rabbitars. And so, like, I've been sitting on these things and I'm like, hey, what are we going to do with all of these AI generated rabbit avatars? And we
That
are
is the
going
thing
to,
with Rabbitars, isn't it? You've got one or two, and then you look away for a second, and now you have a whole family, don't you? It's a classic problem.
unfortunately,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
So I think we've got a lot of viewers coming in from different platforms. So people might not, at least from the toddler side of it, might not all be too familiar with Directus. So can you explain a little bit what Directus is and what makes it special?
Phew. So I'm on the marketing team, like the growth team at Directus. That has been one of our challenges, basically, like trying to define what this thing is. The best analogy I can give is like Lego for developers. Like it is the best of backend plus a CMS. So you can connect a SQL database or connect Directus to a SQL database. It will introspect your database structure, like all the schema. It'll give you REST and GraphQL APIs that are ready to query full CRUD operations. And as we'll look, you'll get a beautiful data studio for like non-technical folks to manage all the content. So backend CMS, you've got lots of other goodies in there like permissions, automations, a little bit of everything.
Sounds great. Excellent. And so for anyone joining in from the director side, my name is Andreas, and I am one of the founders of Toddle. And so Toddle is kind of the exact opposite. It's got no backend. It's all for building front ends of web applications, and it's specifically built for product teams or sort of more professional and developers that want a platform that really scales with whatever they're building and doesn't limit what you can build with it. So it's extremely flexible, it's extremely powerful, and it's also very performant. So really, if you're
I've
looking
noticed
to
that.
build something like a solid front end for your SaaS application or whatever you're building, Toddle is probably a really good choice.
And
Should
I'd
we?
like to add, if I can, you guys have
Yeah, go.
an amazing sense of humor as well. So I've certainly enjoyed that part of this collaboration so far. I can't wait to see what we cook up in the next
Likewise,
45 minutes or
likewise.
so.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be fun. But let's jump into it then. Let's jump into it. I think we'll start by going to Directus. And
Yes.
you're sharing your screen here. And Brian, can you
Y-
take us through what it is we're looking at?
Yes. So this is the Directus Data Studio, right? This is where like the non-technical folks will interact with this, and you are looking at our Rabbitar directory. Now, this is a pretty simple backend compared to some of the stuff that I've built for our own use cases for clients. But as far as like the data model is concerned here, we've got two collections. We call collections, they're basically just tables inside your Postgres database or any SQL database that you connect to. We've got one for Rabbitars. And the beautiful thing here is like if I go in and add a field to this, Andreas's field. That's your field. I'm going to add this
Excellent.
to this.
I've always wanted my own field.
You've got it, sir. So what happens behind the scenes? The Directus APIs translate that into SQL. The SQL database underneath this now has a column for Andreas's field inside the Rabbitars table. And now I get a beautiful UI where I can say, Andreas is cool. Bada bing, bada boom. And not only that, if I go and, I wanted to look at this specific data now, right? We'll just change this from admin, just swap it to items. And there you are, sir. Right, we've got a REST API, which is perfect for toddle, I think.
Probably going to come in very handy. I would also say it's my understanding that it's kind of established best practices to always have a field like that in your SQL database.
100%.
So
has to be.
for anyone listening, I mean, it's not the end of the world if you don't, but I think it's generally considered a good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And what we've got here, again, these are just a list of all of these Rabbitars that we generated. You can see some of the images. We've got the traits that are available. We've got some information about like the AI generation, like what prompts were used to generate these. And they've got random, sometimes hilarious names. Aerodynamic Wigglesworth, the Salad Seeker. So that's him. There he is.
Excellent.
Is there anything else you need me to go into? I could do this all day, but maybe.
Well, I mean, we will be building an app browsing all these wonderful Rabbitars, but I know that there's a little bit more magic hidden in here.
Yes,
I don't know if we're gonna. Maybe we want to wait and cover that later. Should we keep it a secret, or do you want to go through it now?
Well, I mean, if we go through, like, these are the different modules that you have available. You've got a user directory where you can manage all the users. You'll see we have different roles here. If I want to set up different access policies, as we call them, this was a new change in V11 of Directus, like super granular. Hey, this person can read avatars, or this person can upload files, right? The permissions are honestly, like, it's always a pain in the ass to set up permissions in any app. Directus gives you that out of the box. We have dashboards. I should have set up a nice looking dashboard for this, but I didn't. The other thing that we're probably going to interact with a little bit is flows. So these are like low code automations that you can set up. And basically this one, we'll probably use it later, I'm assuming, is a generate a new Rabbitar flow. So this will call the DALL-E 3 API, if I remember correctly, and generate a new Rabbitar anytime you just create one here. Maybe we do this. What traits would your Rabbitar have, Andreas?
Beard, for sure.
Obviously.
Blonde hair. Yeah. Headphones. Do you have headphones?
We don't have headphones in here.
Smiling.
I don't have mouth breathing. So behind the scenes, this flow is running. I've got this set up like asynchronously, but if I check the logs here in just a moment, it could take, I don't know how long the DALL-E 3 API takes, maybe 15, 20 seconds. But there it is. And we can see, everything along the way. The name for this Rabbitar, if we just search it.
Yeah.
There you are, my friend. And this is doing some image transformation just to cut that down to size as well.
Perfect. Brilliant. Okay. So, okay, that's it's quite a lot going on. There's a lot of things it can do. I like that you're hitting that sort of both the easily accessible database that's easy to go and actually like see what's going on, modify the data, get direct access to the data, but you also actually can do some really powerful like backend flows in here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like what I like to say about it is I am not the best developer, but you give me this thing and you give me something like Toddle, like the speed at which I can ship something, freaking amazing.
We actually have an agency that that we work with quite a bit, who are some of the best developers, and they've now sworn entirely that they're only picking up clients if they can use Toddle and Directus. So it's now that it's their company policy to turn down any job that doesn't include just those two. Otherwise,
So there you
just
go.
don't want to do it. Yeah, this must be a nice place to be in, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, well, in that case, is there anything more we want to cover here, or should we get on to the building the front end then?
Yeah, let's get on to shipping something. I know you've watched a couple of my episodes of like 100 apps, 100 hours that we do on Directus TV.
Yes.
I love to build cool stuff. So
Excellent.
let's do it.
Right. Well, we'll jump onto my screen then. I've got a window here, and we are very happy that we bought the toddle.new domain. So if you want to get started, I forgot to sign in. Let's try that again. That took the whole dramatic effect out of it, didn't it?
Run it again. You got it.
Yeah. So it'll just create your new project on your original account and go directly to that, right? Okay.
You guys
so
steal that from Google?
we still do, well,
Sheets.new?
actually I think everyone's doing it now. I know that db.new is super base. I think there's a lot that's picked up this idea. And I gotta say I use it all the time, like, because obviously I do a lot of demos, a lot of people asking questions, and you want to answer with like an example. So just toddle.new, show how something works, and then send them the link, right? So we are gonna build an app, and I believe that all of the stuff you just showed requires me to be authenticated, doesn't it?
So what I did in prep for this was created a public role that has access to read all of the avatars. The only thing it can't do is like create new avatars and upload files. So at the very least, you can get all of the avatars without authentication.
Okay, well let's do that first, and then we can add authentication after, right?
Yep.
So right now I'm just in. I've deleted out. You can see I can put it back in. We put some placeholder stuff in, and we even renamed one of our HTML and just delete this to let people know that if you really want a blank template without any instructions or anything, you can just get rid of that, and then we got a blank slate, right? So again, in Toddle, you can we really made it so you can build anything, right? And the whole idea, the whole model we're going for, is actually the same principles that you have in modern JavaScript frameworks, of around having a bunch of components, and in this case, a page is a type of component. And you can like, these components can have variables, they can call APIs, they can do all sorts of things, and you can build more and more components, and you can put them together to build more and more complex things. So it's like we took this sort of tried and tested model from every modern JavaScript framework today, and then we put a nice UI on top of it. So it's its whole own framework, its whole own setup, but it's like based on all those ideas that's been done for at least the last decade, and probably longer, right?
Yeah. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
Not if it works really well and literally everyone is doing the same thing, there's probably something to it, right? So what we want to do here, first of all, we want to call an API. So I can go and click add API, right?
Yep.
And in this case, what I need is a URL, and I'm going to go and grab it because I think I have it here. We said,
just paste that for you there.
Oh, actually, that's even better.
Copy paste, baby. Make it easy on you.
Oh,
it's rabbitars.directus.app.
Exactly. And I'm just going to go and grab that from our private chat and paste it in here, right? And then I'm going to add a path to this to get it. And I think you said items.
Yeah. So items will be basically, prefix there. And then you're going to need rabbitars is the next one if you're trying to grab the actual rabbitars.
Okay. And it looks like it works. So in Toddle, whenever you're working with APIs, if it's a GET request, which is the type of request we normally use to fetch stuff, we normally put on auto fetch. You can choose to turn it off if you want, but it basically means it'll automatically fetch the data whenever it needs to. So you don't really have to deal with it. We'll call this rabbitars. Oh. right? And we can go down and browse the data here, and we can see that we've got a bunch of results back. And each of these results has like a name, a file ID, and a bunch of these traits, right?
Correct. Now, you'll notice that the traits are just IDs. One of the nice things about Directus is the ability of the REST API to act like a GraphQL API. And I'm assuming you've got ways to like pass parameters, query params to this.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Now we're cooking.
So what do I want to add?
So we're going to add a parameter called fields. And yep. And then how do you add the values to that?
Yeah, I can do that right here.
Okay, cool. So you do a asterisk and then comma. So that's a wild card. Basically, hey, give me all the root level fields. And then you want to do traits dot trait dot asterisk. And that will get, basically we're traversing 2 levels there, and then we're getting all the traits, like the name, the label, etc.
Nice. This is a little bit similar to sort of a Postgres, the sort of API on top of Postgre idea. I see a little bit of, not quite the same syntax, but similar, right? Nice, nice. So I can see now already that in my traits, instead of just having a list of numbers, I actually get the traits out now.
Yep.
Excellent. Right. So now that we got the data we want to show, we actually just need to then go and display it, right? So in this case, I'm going to add, well, we probably should add some basic stuff like a heading. Actually, let's go and make a light background, should we?
Yeah.
We'll do light mode today. And here we go. Right, add a little bit of padding. This is probably not going to be the best design session in the world. That's not really my specialty. So we'll see. I'll do my best.
But I call myself a recovering designer on every video. I'm like, hey, look.
That means at least at one point you could.
Yeah, at one point I could.
So we'll add a main section, and in that we'll add a list. And I'm here just adding HTML elements. So one of the things that I think looks, at least from a sort of no-code point of view, often a little bit weird, is that there's no like built-in components to Toddle. There's no built-in anything. You're just working with HTML. But luckily, we then have a bunch of really lovely community members that are going around building these packages and complex components you can use. So if you want like a drag and drop functionality or calendar or confetti or whatever it is you're looking at, text editor, all these things are there. You can install them directly. But out of the box, it is just pure HTML and CSS. You get to work directly with the low-level things here, right? Right. So now I've got a list, and what I want to do now is basically I want one of these list items for every Rabbit we got back from the API. And I can do that by repeating it. So in this case, I right-click on it and say repeat. And then we can see here I've got access to my Rabbitars inside our formula editor. Formula editor basically lets you transform, like access any data in your component and transform it. So I'm going to pick my Rabbitars, the data, and then data again. That's sort of the path down. The first data we add on our end, and the second data is actually part of the payload coming back, right?
Yep.
So now we can dive in and see that it's all here, right? But now that we got this list, we now have a list item for every single Rabbitar, right? And then I'm going to remove this one. We'll add I think we'll add a paragraph, and inside that text, we'll add in the name. So just like I did with the repeat, I can choose the text to be set by a formula. And now I have, because I'm inside my repeat, I have access to this repeat item data, right? So every one of these paragraphs is going to have a different value for this repeat item. In this case, I'm going to grab out name. So now I'm listing all the Rabbitars down here, right?
Nice. All those wonderful names.
All those wonderful names. And I can't find mine right now, but we might be able to find it later, right? I'll add an image in as well, I think. And in this case, I think we need to be a little bit clever because I believe that what I got back was just a file ID.
That's
Is there a way to
correct.
turn that into a image URL?
Yeah. So I just pasted a prefix for you. Basically, you take that base URL, rabbitars.directus.app, and instead of items, you do /assets, and then you give it the ID of that asset, and it will give you the image.
So I just posted the first part of the URL in here, and then I put the file ID in as a second one. And concatenate just puts those strings together into one here, right?
Yep.
Right. So that is a perfectly reasonable sized rabbit.
That's it. Done. The stream is over.
Perfection. I'm thinking we'll give like this, let's say 300 pixels, and then, or maybe even make it 200 pixels, and then maybe we'll make this go this way and wrap. Right. So then we'll have each list item here can be a card, and maybe we'll give it like a little bit of, we'll give it a background color that's all white with a bit of shadow on.
Ooh, now we're cooking. I like this.
Of course, some border radius. My co-founder is a designer, and he says 90% is just border radius and white space. So, like, if you got that down, apparently you're kind of like, that's it. That's what you need. And I trust him on this. Right?
Yeah. I mean, the number of arguments we have on border radius at Directus when we're designing something.
Exactly, right? And of course, here I want my border radius as well. So I'm just going to set 6 pixels on the top there. Okay. I feel like this is already looking pretty good. And then we'll add, actually, maybe we'll put a fixed height for this one. Because then they all look the same height. Something like that. Okay.
Nice.
A little bit of padding.
Yeah, get some padding there.
Oh, that was a bit aggressive. Right. And we'll put this up a little bit more. Something like that. Okay. It's not the greatest design in the world to have like a fixed height, because eventually one of these titles is going to end up punishing me for it. But we'll put it there. Maybe we'll just put the size 0.8 rem. Right. Okay. That helped a bit.
Yeah.
Right. There we go.
Beautiful.
Okay. So now we've got our Rabbitar cards here. Excellent. Is there more fun things we can do? Because I'm thinking, I don't know where mine is. We just made one, and now because we have all this, we can go into test mode and scroll down, of course, or we can go and check the preview here.
Yeah, and this is by default. We're probably going to paginate that to like 100 items. So you're probably not going to show up there.
Oof. So can we search?
We can search, and there's two you can search. You could set up what we call a filter rule, where you can, it's a little more optimized, but there's also just a search query parameter that will, any text field that's in that collection, it will try to come back with. So that's probably the easiest way to go for this.
That seems pretty good. So how do I want to do that?
I forgot the name for your Rabbitar.
Yeah, that's important. While you look at that, I'm going to go here and I'm going to add, we're just going to do it very simple, and we'll add an input in, and I'll put that up to the top. While you go look up your,
I found it.
Yeah.
We're good now.
Maybe we'll keep that. The 800 pixels, I think we'll go with. That's a big enough search input, isn't it?
It's massive.
Yeah. Well, we want big search inputs. Let's do a 44 height. But we're going to change the background color again back to something like this, and give it a bit of border. That's always good, isn't it?
Love it.
I'm perfectly okay with this. Probably should change the color of it to something kind of dark. Okay.
Nice.
Nice. And because all of this is just HTML, if you know your HTML, you know you need to put a placeholder attribute on, and we'll call it search. That also means that anything inside a toddle, if it's a native element, and you don't know everything about how it works, you can just look it up. Like, because it's just HTML. There's like a million courses on how HTML works, right? So now we have a search input. What we want to do in toddle is we want to take, instead of just always grabbing values out of search inputs whenever you're doing anything, we actually want to bind it to a variable, because in toddle, variables are usually where you store like temporary data. And by temporary, stuff that goes away when you refresh the browser is essentially, right? So I'm going to create a variable called search, and we're going to set the initial value to just be an empty string. And then on input, what I actually want to do is set the value here to the value of my variable. And then I want to go and create an event. So every time the input event on that happens, I want to update the variable. But because you end up doing that so often in toddle, we made a shortcut called bind to variable, and it just does that.
Okay. Sweet.
What that means is if I now say like legend here.
Legend. It's a good one. That's not it though. We can play. We can play like a guessing game.
It's not it. But then actually the current value of my variable updates as I'm typing, right? And so now the last thing we need to do is just make sure that our API actually respects our search input. And what did you say? The
parameter is just search. That will do a full text search on any of the the text inputs that are within that collection. So it's not super optimized, but for this purpose,
that's perfectly good when we just have a name, right? So that works perfectly. In this case, I add a search query param here, and we can use, just like we did with so many other places. Again, we can use a formula every time we're adding in dynamic data anywhere. We're using a formula, and I'm just going to use my search variable. And again, because we have auto fetch on with toddle APIs, whenever you load the component, it automatically fetch the data. But whenever any of the data depends on changes, it automatically also refetches. So it will automatically, as we type here, change. Now, one thing to note is if you're a fast typer, that's kind of it's considered rude to hammer your backend API with like 60 requests a second for someone typing at full speed.
I would argue that it's animal cruelty on this episode.
In this case, it's a lot of rabbits to get in and out of cages really quick. Yeah, so I think what we can do is we can say, let's go and give it a debounce of 300 milliseconds. And what that means is every time I'm typing, the API actually waits 300 milliseconds, so about a third of a second, to see if I'm going to hit another key. And when I stop doing that for a short period of time, like a third of a second, then it goes and make a request. So that means if I'm typing like legend really quick, it'll actually just do one search for legend. But if I'm typing like a little bit and like slow typing, it'll still show me results along the way. So it's a really nice way of getting that like type ahead instant search field feel, but not being rude. So if I go nibbler, right?
Yep.
Here, I'm still getting all these results, right? Do you have a hint of what my rabbit was called?
Hey, does anybody in the chat know?
They might have. Yeah, maybe that's the where we should look.
I own a pizza domain too. Okay, we get deep in there now. All right, I'll give you a hint. The first, one of the words is giant.
Giant. Okay.
Let's see if you can remember what it looks like.
Giant Warren. It's spectacular giant Flopsy. That was the one.
That's the one.
Excellent. Yeah, it is a legendary beard. I'll give you that. It brings up envy. I'm not gonna lie. Okay. Well, so far so good. We've got our Rabbitar directory. that people can go. We can, and I say all this always works on the live side, right? So giant, like we can go and share this live URL with people, and you can test stuff as you're working on it, right?
Yep.
And of course, we'll share the whole project afterwards, so people at least can go and see everything, all how we done in the toddle. Should we add an extra functionality? Because I know that we can also submit. As you mentioned, you have a flow for how we can create a new body.
Oh, I do. We would probably need authentication for that, though.
Well, I think that should be possible as well. So I am going to go and create a new page called login. And we're going to make that 100% high. We're going to add I'm working a little bit fast just to make sure we're not spending all our time building heading 1 label, and we're going to do an input, and then we're just going to duplicate this one to do it again. Okay, so login. Right, we're going to censor this. Our form should have some padding, maybe not quite that much. And we are gonna make it a card, because good old-fashioned card UI is never going out of fashion, is it? Is it?
I hope not.
Okay, good. Otherwise, that would have been a problem. Yeah, and we'll just put this. We'll just put this background on as well, a little bit darker. I mean, that is looking good. There we go. We'll do the same here. Actually, we should probably copy that so they're the same color. Otherwise, it's going to be too obvious that I don't know what I'm doing. No, right. No. Let's go and set this one.
That could be in your special event you guys have coming up. I won't ruin the surprise for that, but
yeah, it could be it wouldn't make the cut, to be honest. Yeah. Okay, so I am just gonna say email. I believe we're doing email password login, right? Otherwise,
that's the simplest one. Like one other nice way that we offer, like if you're doing like server to server type stuff, you can just generate a static API token as well.
Okay, well that's kind of nice. I think in this case, let's go for the simplest. Right, that is my login form. I'm very proud of it. So yeah, I think we'll go with that. So since I have 2 inputs here, just like I did with before, we're gonna add 2. We're gonna add 2 variables called email, and it's gonna be an empty string, and we'll add password, also an empty string.
Take it.
Right. And we are again gonna bind them to their respective variables. And of course, for the password, we're gonna change the type to password. Okay. So now I have a login form. I've added labels. I have not done due diligence and added all the right names, labels, and stuff to the inputs that we obviously want to do to make our forms accessible. But I think we cover that in other video, because we don't want to spend too much time on that today.
Only so much you could do in an hour.
Exactly. So I want to log in. How do I do that?
So you would submit.
API.
Yeah, you're gonna have to call the API, and that would just be the base URL, rabitars.directus.app/auth/login, and then you're gonna post that with a body of email and password.
All right. So I'm gonna make it a post. We'll call it login, and we want a body.
Yeah. Did you get the URL?
Yeah.
What do we? Oh, yeah. There it goes. Okay. Sorry, I didn't see the path down there. You got it. That's perfect.
No, so when you create a new, you have the option of just pasting a URL.
Okay.
It makes it very easy to just.
Sweet.
if you have someone pasting it in a private chat, that's kind of the fastest way to develop, to be honest. It's not always the case. Okay, so we're adding a post request here, which is obviously we are creating something or we are sending data to the server. So I want a body, and the body, what type of data should it be?
So it's just an object, and we've
Okay.
got an email and a password.
Okay, object. I'm going to add an email, and then I'm going to make that my email variable, and we'll add a password, and I'll change that to my password variable, right?
Yep.
Good. And then we're not going to open this bit because in here it will obviously show your password if you typed it in. We're not going to do that on live stream, and you're going to remind me not to do that on live stream. Yes, because we're professionals. We don't show our passwords on live stream. I did do that on the last live stream, but I'm not going to do it on this one.
Listen,
Yeah.
I can axe that one pretty quickly if we need to, but nobody on this live stream would dare try to do anything.
They're
like
good
that.
people. They're good people. Okay. Let's just email password. These are actually terrible placeholders, but yeah. Good. Okay, so I want to type in my email here, Andreas. Oh, I forgot to set the color of these. Let's just quickly do that because that looks not great. Oh, that was the wrong one. Yeah. Here.
There we go.
Good. So Andreas at toddle.dev. And then I am going to go in a separate window to get my password manager. Again, because we know what we're doing here. It's great.
Straight professionals. I love it.
Exactly.
I'm not going to out the person, but I did an episode once where someone might have left an open AI API key in the actual video, and I don't know how they knew, but someone got a email about it after that, that it was compromised. So maybe a good Samaritan out there somewhere.
That's one of the greatest thing about these AI code bots is that you can always get a free API key just by typing OpenAI API key into text editor. It's arguably one of the greatest thing about them. Okay, so I've pasted in my password and I'm gonna hit login, and it does a weird refresh because we need to actually wire it up to our API. So I hadn't done anything. That's why it doesn't work. Okay, so when we submit the form, we wanted to call the API. That's the important bit. So with HTML forms, you have a submit event on a form, and that actually happens when you hit enter on one of the inputs, or you hit like a default button inside. It submits the form. So we're gonna go to form inside our form event inside our form here, and hit submit. And actually by default, we call prevent default, which prevents the browser from calling that URL and refreshing your browser, because honestly, it's almost never what you want to do. What we do want to do is call login.
Yep.
And so when we don't have auto fetch on, we can just call it manually with an action like this, right? We don't need to, we can just do that manually. We can also do that to refetch the data if we want to. So let's go and try again, Andreas. And we should still have it in our. And we can see that absolutely nothing happens, and that kind of makes sense. Let's go and see, because we haven't really told it to do anything. But we can see that the data we've got back now have an access token. So it called the API, but we hadn't told it to notify us in the UI in any way, right? So it just kind of calls it, right? So the next thing we want to do here is that now that we've got this access token, we want to store it in a secure way, so nobody's going to come along and steal it. Generally, you shouldn't really show your access tokens on screen either, but one of the nice things about these JWTs is that the first part up to the dot is actually just a header saying I'm a JWT encoded. And the next part is kind of part of the payload, but unless you have the whole bit, you aren't really exposing too much. You are technically
Correct.
exposing a little bit, but it's not enough to steal it. So we won't show the whole thing anyway. Right. And as you said, they're short-lived. So by the time people get around to trying to hacking our back, like a Rabbit backend, which after all this definitely will happen, it should have expired, right? So
I see they've reminded us that no one's going to do that inside the chats.
yeah, it's good.
Uh,
So one of the things we have here on our API is we have these events, and it basically allows us to trigger some workflows at certain points. So we can either do it on success, we can do it on error, or actually we could do it on message, which is really useful when you're streaming responses, right?
Yep.
We're just going to say on success, whenever we get this token, I want to go and save it in a secure session cookie. And this is an HTTP only cookie that sets in the browser. That means that like JavaScript on the page can't read it, but it's still going to be sent along to API requests. So I'm going to say set session cookies. No, I don't want to do that, Chrome. And then I'm going to set the access token here. And I'm going to set that to my login data access token.
You guys have, it seems like you've thought of everything. I'm not going to lie. I was like, oh, we're going to do authentication using email and password on the stream.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, love it.
And then after that, we're going to just say go to URL, and I'm just going to hit / for that, right? So it says, when you log in, go and fetch stuff, then save that token when you get it back. And at the end of it, go back to the homepage, right? Now, we should really also handle errors and stuff. So we show people if they can't figure out how to log in. But I think we've got a lot of videos of that, and sort of in the spirit of keeping it a bit short. One thing I do want to do is I'm going to duplicate this text inside the button, because there's a lot of ways you can sort of change the text, but sometimes it's easier just to have two and then show a hiding one. So I'm going to change this number 2 to say logging in ... And then just like I did with formulas and repeat, I can also toggle them. So I can say show hide. And then I'm saying if this one is loading, wait, that was the login one. Yeah, so
logging in. Yep.
That was logging in. Okay, perfect. Yeah, okay, I did the right one. Yes, if it's loading, then we want to show it. And this one, we want to say if it's loading, not. Basically, if it's not loading, right? Then show that one. So let's try that again. I'm going to hit login. It's going to switch to logging in. And then after that, it should save the token. And then here we come up with a notification saying we blocked the navigation. That just means when you're inside the editor, we're not going to take you to a different page, because that's generally really annoying. But let's go and try it. Here, I'm going to go to a new site. We're saying Andreas toddle.dev and paste this, logging in. Hey.
Hey.
I mean, no, I don't want to save it. Okay, so Auth works now. And the beautiful thing is now we can use that token as long as we're calling APIs. In Toddle, we can actually use that token for a bunch of things. So I think we should make a new page again, shouldn't we?
Yeah.
Like a create
a Rabbitar.
Yes, create Rabbitar. Right? Let's go and make that one, right? Still don't want to save it, Chrome. Nope. And I mean, this is going to be another form, isn't it?
It is going to be a form. I don't know.
Okay.
We're going to want to form it up, basically.
Yes. Right. And we're going to put it in the center. And we're going to put a heading 1 inside, saying create your Rabbitar. And it kind of only needs like one input, right?
Yeah, we could do a couple of different ways, but really, let's just start with a name, right? We'll give it a name.
Yeah. Okay. We're just gonna change our text color and make it darker here, and we do default everything to dark mode. So whenever we do go light, it's a little bit more. Yeah. What are we doing? There we are. Doing this. Adding a bit of spacing, right?
Do you want me to get on the mic and do I am your father.
Perfect.
Yeah, there you go. Dark mode.
Right. Yeah, but we normally do dark mode, so everything's kind of default by everyone does, right? Right.
All
Okay.
my clients
So
love
we've
dark
got
mode.
it. I still think it's nicer. I understand that it's one of our most requested features is light mode, and we will eventually
There you go.
probably maybe add it. Yeah. But let's go and add a name here, and we are just binding this again, right? Okay. So yes, you said we want to add, and we'll add a button called create.
Beautiful.
Oops. And we'll add some spacing. Yes. Okay. You were mentioning something about, was there anything else we needed other than a name?
We don't need like you could pass trace to this API. It's through the junction collection, but let's try first with the name. Make sure that that I've got this set up and we don't have to do any trick shot debugging on the fly.
If we have time, we can always add afterwards.
Yeah.
So I'm adding another API call here. Do you have a
so it's going to be that same URL.
It's going to be the same. I'm just going to steal it from here then. Homepage.
Yep. Just steal it.
Yep.
And when we're creating items, obviously it's going to be a post request. And then I'm just going to pass like that name and an object, that name variable. Now
just
you could also just the name. Yeah. Now you could also potentially, like if you pass an array of items, it will go in and bulk create those for you. So if you need to create additional items, and one of the other nice things that we already seen, you can even create related data inside a single API call.
Oh,
that's maybe the next stream.
Oh yeah, maybe. So I can either do an object, or as you say, I could, if I wanted to add more, like I could go and add a bunch of, like inside an array here, right? Which I don't
you could
do. And it's the same endpoint. I don't even need to change anything else, right?
Nothing else.
Oh, that's nice. Okay.
We try to make the experience nice. We try.
Good. Should we come up with a name for it first?
Let's go to the chat. Who's got the best name for this Rabbitar? We'll give it a few. Give me time to take a sip of water here. Are we on a?
We might be on a slight delay. But it should pop up pretty soon. Fisher.
Stockton Fisher.
Yeah. That's the name of Stockton. Yeah. It's not a terrible name. I mean, should we go with Stockton Fisher?
Roberta.
Rabbisour.
Rabbisour.
I like Rabbisour.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay, I can see I forgot to set the font color again. Let's just quickly do that because there we are. Okay, right? Okay, so now that I have that, and because it was bound to my variable, right? Here, we already have that, and we can see inside our newbie, which we're just gonna call create Rabbitar, right? So because I have that, my body should now say Rabbisour. Okay, excellent. So I have a feeling that it's not going to work when I call it now, because it says you do not have permission to create from collection Rabbitars. And so that's probably because while I have logged in and absolutely do have a token, I have not informed this request of this. So like having an auth token, if you don't tell anyone, doesn't really mean too much. So what do I need to do to send this along?
So it should just be adding that auth token to the header.
Okay. And just as authorization header?
Yeah, as a bearer token.
Yeah. So because that's pretty much always the answer, we just fill it in by default. And then if
Yep.
people want to change it, obviously you can do it within. But what you can see, it kind of says cookies access token here, because when I'm on the front end, I can't actually see what this token is. And that's on purpose for security. Like, we don't actually want this token to be something that like a malicious script running on your site can easily steal. So like if if you're loading some code from like a CDN or something, and someone maliciously get in and does a man in the middle attack, like
Right.
one of the most common thing is like go and sniff all the cookies, read everything in local storage, and send it somewhere, right? And then we can see if we got some passwords or tokens later. So therefore, it's really nice to not be able to see what that token is on the front end, because then again, you're not gonna be as likely to get it sniffed. But what we actually do is we proxy the request, and then Toddle will insert that token at this point inside that request before it gets sent over to Directus, right? So let's go and try that again. I'm going to go and test, and it says it has created a Rabbisar.
Yes.
Right.
And if I take a look, I'm just watching the system logs here inside Directus. Like,
should we go and have a look at Directus? We'll just swap over to your screen.
Yeah, so we could see there's that post request for Rabbitars, and that request is showing as created. And if I were to open up our flows, right, you can still see basically the studio just uses our Directus API, but then I should be able to see inside my flow here. There's our Rabbitar. Cannot read properties of create. We have a issue.
Did I miss some stuff? Did we needed extra data?
Let's do this. This is the name generator. So I'm just gonna wait. What do we have here? Turn the payload.name traits. If the name, it should be working. What did we miss?
You sure? Yeah.
Properties
I mean, I didn't send traits at all. So if that was supposed to be a list.
No, you shouldn't have to pass the traits. Oh, maybe we just do this.
What is it? Traits create and map.
It's trying to map the traits that we did not pass.
That's yeah. I can send you a nice array if you want. I mean, I'm not.
Yeah, no worries. All right, let's try it again.
Okay,
fingers crossed.
Well,
it wouldn't
this
be a
time let's go and do it properly and actually bind this form event, right? So I'm gonna go submit, and we're gonna say call Rabbitar, and on success we are gonna say we're gonna again go to URL. Right, we'll go back to the list when we've done this, right? Right, and let's do the same little trick here with loading.
And I'm not seeing your screen at all.
That's because I switched back to your screen. It's going to be a lot better if you can see what I'm doing. There we are. Sorry about that, everyone watching. Yes. So all I did here is like on my form, I added the submit event to call Rabbitar, create Rabbitar API. And on success, and I have the events, I've accessed them both from the inside the API, but I can also hear from this where I call it. I can also do the event here, because sometimes this is where you have access to just the right data for the next step. So you have the option of doing it either on the API or here where you're calling it. So I'm just saying on success, go to URL, same as before. And I'm just adding these loading texts. Right, again, if this is loading, and I'm just going to copy this one, show hide and not, right? So now we'll try again. We'll say yes, and then it said block navigation to. That means we know it should have done that. We can go back to and see if we can see in our logs. Do we have a new Rabbitar?
I don't see any errors happening here, so let's see what we got this time. Okay, good. So I don't want to ruin the surprise here. It looks like everything came through okay. Do you want to go back and search for Rabasar on the front end, see what we came up with.
Let's go and see that on the homepage. But actually, let's go over here, and then we'll give that and Rabasar. Did I switch? Here we are.
Rabasar.
There's my Rabasar. Excellent. And maybe the last thing we'll just do is here we'll add a link to create new. And I mean, I can't 100% remember what I call that. Create Rabasar. Okay, that's gonna be
the two hardest problems building stuff, right? What to name it, and then remembering what you named
and then
it.
remembering what you named it. That is literally all the problems. Okay, this should go up here, right? Oh, okay. I'm really doing all the design at the moment, right? So now we're gonna say, oh, well, we're back. We heard Sayatir here saying he had a delay and missed the name giving, so you get another chance. Now's the time. Though Fluffmaster 3000. Okay, yeah, that works.
Fluffmaster 3000.
There we go. And we're back. And now Fluff. We might have been a little bit quick because there is kind of a it's one thing getting the response back from Directus. That means we've created it, but that doesn't mean. Oh, actually, there it is.
There you go.
That was very quick. That was actually very, very quick. Okay, excellent. There we have Fluffmaster 3000.
I called Sam Altman and said, "Hey, turn up the juice for us." On
that's nice. Yeah, that's good. He's not been returning my calls. I'm glad you got him on the phone. Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're sort of coming up on an hour, so I think that's probably a good time to call it. There's a lot more fun things we can do. I think we should definitely find a time to do a stream again at some point in the future. I had a lot of fun, and I think there's a lot more cool things we could showcase here with Toddle and Directus.
Yeah. Look forward to the next thing. This has been a ton of fun. Really excited to see what this collective audience builds together.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So before we jump into questions from the audience, I want to let everyone know that we are currently running a competition, which is called the Bad UI World Cup, and there's a prize pool. The winner wins $3,700, and you can basically go and scan the QR code on the screen right now with your phone, or if you're on a computer, you can click on it. Open the link and you can participate. What you have to do is you have to build some really, really terrible UX in Toddle. I did a video earlier today, and we can share that in the description of this video, or at least on YouTube afterwards. That showcase some of the ridiculous things you could build. But again, the whole idea here is it's got to be terrible UX that's borderline unusable, but not technically impossible. And we're going for something that's hilariously annoying. That is what you're going for. But go check out the website, go and see how you participate and how you sign up for our Bad UX World Cup.
Ooh,
and you
all the ideas swirling in my head. I gotta foot the OpenAI bill here somehow.
Exactly. I earlier today I built a password input that only works with an on-screen keyboard, where every key just have a star on it. So it's privacy first.
We'd love it.
Yeah, but there's a lot of options. I think we're going to get some really good submissions. You can't just submit an airplane website. That's not we know that all. Yeah, but that's not allowed. Okay, just saying it now. It's not okay to just submit the website for any given airline. You've got to build it yourself, and you have to build it in Toddle. Right. Should we jump on to questions? I can see we're already there. What was the AI model they were using? That is for you, Brian.
Yes. So we are using Directus has this concept of extensions. So we have a marketplace where you can basically pull these into your project. They're published by our community members. This is using our AI image generation, which basically uses OpenAI's DALL-E 3 model under the hood. And all this code is open source. If you're looking for it, I'm not sure if you could switch over to my screen.
Yes.
Directus Labs / extension. This is a community repo where we have a bunch of these Directus extensions, like our AI image generation operation. And you can dive through the actual code here. So it's not anything super fancy. It's just a nice, I guess I could make this a lot larger, right? We're just calling the images generations endpoint at OpenAPI or OpenAI. God, every single time I get on a stream or a video, OpenAI API. It's kills me every time. But
we
nothing
just
fancy.
started supporting Open API in our API panel, and that just made it 10 times worse for me because now I get it wrong on both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something we support as well. So if you wanted to get like an Open API spec against this Rabbitars instance that we've created, you could go. There's a endpoint specifically for that, and away you could go. I'm not sure what else. Probably more cool stuff.
We should probably have done that because you can just paste that in, and then it can like show you every endpoint on it. That would have saved us a ton of time. I should ask for that first. Okay, excellent. Well, okay.
Next
I promise we'll do a video showing how to do that with Directus. I promise to get that up very soon then, because that's gonna be really nice. Okay, what else did we have? More questions here? Does Directus allow for streaming responses?
Streaming responses.
I think they mean in like chat streaming, like if you're streaming
gotcha.
from OpenAI.
I don't quote me on this. I'm going to say no. Out of the box, I don't think we support streaming responses because you could potentially build like a custom endpoint underneath the hood. It's all open source, like Express.js. Maybe not the
nice.
Diving into some of the more technical details. I'm not sure how far to tiptoe into that, but
the rabbit hole.
You could potentially create an API extension for like streaming AI LLM stuff. But as far as like the regular API, probably no streaming responses there.
Yeah, I have the same issue with toddle sometimes when people ask. I'm like, technically, there's not really anything that's impossible, but it might not be the easiest solution. Yeah. Okay. Very nice. I've got one here saying future support for Directus SDK in the builder. I think yes, without promising it entirely yet. What we've done with some other services is we added support through the OpenAPI spec. And if there is one for Directus, we will just I'll have a chat with Brian afterwards and see how we can get that in as a first class service. So toddle is called services. You add a service and it just goes and inspect all the possible endpoints on that through the OpenAPI, and then you can really quickly list them. So that should actually give you, I think, I don't know too much of the Directus SDK, so I don't know if there's anything we wouldn't cover in that.
Yeah, it's a lot of convenience methods. Nothing insane. Just standardizing across like different projects and different environments.
And it's possible in toddle to extend what toddle can do. Like I showed a lot of the formulas and stuff we can use, as well as some of the actions like setting variables and calling APIs. You can also build your own with JavaScript, and then it can do literally whatever you want to. So there's not really any limit there. We don't have like for example, Directus SDK, but you could go and build that and use the actual SDK and build all this functionality for in toddle. You can even share a package on our package infrastructure if you do that, so the next person doesn't have to. So there's a lot of options there.
Oh, this is a good one. Is Directus no code, low code, biz dev, or do you need to know how to code to use it? So technically, it's no code. Like I could go in and not knowing a lick of code, create a data model and call an API. I would say it's low code, and like you're gonna want to know some code, gotta have some experience to be able to get the most out of it. It might be a little painful at first if you don't know how to code. It is I like my journey to Directus. If I riff on this for a moment, I used to use Airtable a lot, and my journey into development was from a no-code perspective. And I am now like, I won't say I'm a great developer. I'm not bad. I still like low-code tools because it's maintenance is the name of the game.
Yeah.
And why reinvent the wheel if you've got two tools that work perfectly together?
Exactly. I want to add, like, I do think like no code, low code, VisDev. With all the naming conversations going on, I think we should just end on that as the name of the whole industry. No code, low code, VisDev. It's certainly going great. But Todd is actually the same in the sense that it doesn't require you to know any code. Like, you can extend the functionality with JavaScript, but you don't need to know any to get started. But at the same time, all the principles are like, again, we didn't reinvent everything that people have been working on for the last 50 years, 60 years, right? We took all the best ideas. So you are still programming, right? You are doing whatever a coder would do. You are just having nicer tools to do it with. So like, you're still learning all the same stuff in the end. Like, it's not, it's easier, but you're still learning all the same things. You're still, if you're starting from scratch with Toddle, and I think the same is pretty much true for Directus, you might be starting from scratch. You're still on the path to becoming a programmer, and you're still learning all the same ideas and same concepts. You learn how APIs and REST APIs work and all these things, right? So while it's not code, it's still very, very much programming. So you will still learn these things over time, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. If you know data modeling, like how to structure your data, you'll be very successful with Directus. 100%.
Yes.
Wow. Okay. We're getting super technical here. I'm assuming this is one for us. Will you introduce unique constraint indexing into DB and some more complex export import to different environments? Without more context, can I just like punt on that one? Hey, like, you can index certain fields inside Directus. If I maybe we cut to the screen one more time.
Oh yeah.
The parting shot. Because Andreas's field is so important to me, I could just go in here and check this indexed box. This field is indexed, and now that will create an index in my SQL database for me. As far as the environments question, that is probably a little more complicated discussion.
Yeah. I think the question might also have been about actually doing constraints around that, but I think that's probably a question for the future roadmap. Do you have somewhere where people can see that or anything, or do you have a server where a Discord or Slack server where they can go?
Yeah, so a couple different ways to interact with the community. Directus is an open source backend, so you can find us on GitHub at Directus/Directus. We've got like 28,000 stars on there. There is a lively discussion panel or discussions here. So a lot of feature requests run through here. You can actually see the projects that our team. Well, no, you can't. Those are private. Love that. But you can, see all the discussion around this. We also have a Discord community. I believe it is just directus.chat. That should take us there. Beautiful. And then if you do want to get started with Directus, the easiest way to do that is through Directus Cloud. So you don't have to manage any infrastructure. Just come in, create a project, spin up a trial. We don't have this Rabbit directory here inside the templates, but we do have like CMS for a website if you're trying to build a CRM or just like a tiny e-commerce store. We've got you. And that it comes with a trial as well. So give it a go. Or you can always self-host it using any of a number of different services.
Excellent. It's good to hear. 37,000 is pretty impressive. Stars on GitHub.
Yes. One other resource that I will point out, and I don't know if we could drop a link here inside the chat to everyone. Just directus.io/TV. If you like this sort of stuff where we're building something cool in an hour, check this out. This is me trying, sometimes succeeding, sometimes failing miserably at building stuff like Airbnb clones or food delivery apps or an intercom messenger clone or a social media platform like X. So a definitely cool resource if you want to learn more about Directus.
Nice. That's actually a really good idea. Maybe we should copy that one. Yeah.
And obviously this goofy picture of me as well.
Well, obviously, I mean, yeah, we would do it. We would do the whole thing. If we're copying it, we're doing it down to the picture. I'll do the yeah, of course. Great artist copy, right?
Yeah.
Or steal one of them. I think with that, I think that'll be the last question because we're already well over time. But I think we got some good stuff built and some great questions. If you have more questions, you're obviously welcome to leave them on the respective videos on YouTube. But also, yeah, you can join our Discord server. Go and find it on toddle.dev, our domain. You can join Directus Slack channel. Go and ask them questions directly there. So yeah, looking forward to see it. Make sure when you do go there to Discord and Slack, make sure to share all the stuff you're building because there is nothing better than seeing what people build with your tool. It is the best part of the job. So make sure you always do that. And thank you very much to everyone who was watching. And thank you very much, Brian, for coming on the stream and like showing us Directus and helping us build this fantastic Rabbit app.
Yeah, I love it, man. I really enjoyed this. Thank you all. We'll have to get together again soon. Let us know in the audience.